Sorry about that, everyone.
Are we off mute?
Yes.
Okay. Wisconsin is a politically divided state, as you all know. Wisconsin state capital right behind us is one of the few states in the nation where there is a split partisan divide, a governor of one party and a legislature of another, which makes things very interesting across the street. Our split nature continues in Washington, where we have Ron Johnson, a Republican in the U.S. Senate, and Democrat Tammy Baldwin in the U.S. Senate. Only one of 5 states that has that configuration of partisanship in the U.S. Senate. Chad, if you want to forward the slide. Well, Wisconsin, again, is the swingiest of swing states. Mike Torrey mentioned the 7 swing states. Wisconsin is the swingiest of swing. And what do we mean by that? We have 10 electoral votes, 8 members of the U.S. House, 2 members of the U.S. Senate, 10 electoral votes. We were considered part of the blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, as the national pundits called these 3 Great Lakes states. One thing you see in Wisconsin, besides the politically competitive natures, we have a very much of a rural and urban partisan divide. We'll show you a map here in the future of that partisan divide as it played out last Tuesday in the election. Our split nature continues in competitiveness. In 2016, Donald Trump barely won the state. He won the blue wall states. He won Wisconsin barely in 2016. 4 years later, Democrat Joe Biden barely won Wisconsin and the other blue wall states. This year, we had U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin facing her 3rd term for re-election, and there was only one ballot question on the ballot statewide. There were 2 competitive congressional districts, one in the 3rd district of Wisconsin, where I'm originally from, and the 1st congressional district, which is the state line from Janesville to Kenosha. But the state legislative races that Chad and I want to focus on were very competitive this year because of the new fair maps. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers signed Act 94 in February of this past year, where a Republican-led legislature signed a Democratic governor's bill to make state legislative maps more competitive to reduce what many thought was a partisan advantage for the Republicans. In this upcoming election, that just passed, DBA made 52 endorsements out of the 115 races that were up for contest. Key Senate legislative races in the state Senate. Currently, the Republicans control the state Senate 22-11. This past session, they had a veto override ability of a 22-11 majority in a 33-member House. Each state senator represents about 190,000 people in Wisconsin. Since the races were competitive, 4 state Senate races were targeted by both parties, Democrats being on offense, Republicans being on defense. In the 8th district, which is in southeast Wisconsin, where Dewey Strobel, a longtime member of the legislature, joint finance member, lost his race to a candidate who'd run before, a woman named Jody Habush-Sinekin, in the Milwaukee suburbs. Democrats had made continuous gain in the Milwaukee suburbs, especially with Donald Trump on the ballot, and that did Dewey in an election day. A friend of DBA's in the 14th Senate District, which is just north of Madison, DeForest, Lodi, Reedsburg, Partyville, Poinet, that area of the state really has grown because of Madison. Joan Ballweg, a longtime state senator, chair of the Senate Agriculture Committee, past DBA Legislative Award winner, lost her race to a Lodi physician, Sarah Kajewski. So Democrats have picked up 2 seats so far. And then there were 2 open seats due to the redistricting that we talked about. In the Fox Valley, a seat in Oshkosh and Appleton, right along Highway 41. A woman named Kristen Elfheim, a Democrat, won that race. He was an Appleton City Council member. And then in the 30th district, which is the city of Green Bay, Alloway, Ashwaubenon, and parts of De Pere, and a little bit of rural Brown County, Jamie Wall, a Democrat who actually grew up on a dairy farm in Wrightstown, Wisconsin, won that race. Now you see a different complexion of the state composition of the state legislature, with the state Senate Republicans, instead of 22-11, is now 18-15. It was a net loss of 4 seats for the Republicans. Republicans still maintain control. In the state assembly, is a 99-person body. The Republicans control the body 64-35, 99 total seats. Under the new maps, as were drawn, competitively maps, 45 of those 99 seats were determined by experts that they lean Republican. 44 of those seats lean Democrat or strongly Democrat, and only 10 were highly competitive. What drives votes and outcomes in state assembly races? Obviously, the top of the ticket, Trump versus Harris. Quality candidate recruitment and money. Those matter in election outcomes. DBA played a role in several races of those competitive races that mattered. DBA endorsed longtime friend Todd Novak, who's from Dodgeville, Lafayette County, and Iowa County area. He won yet another race. His district is about 8 to 9 points more Democratic than Republican. Todd Novak, a very popular Republican, a moderate Republican, former mayor of Dodgeville, won yet again. DBA endorsed him. DBA gave him money thanks to your support of our conduit and path. In the 91st district, an area between Menominee and Chippewa Falls, Clint Moses, who is a chiropractor in Menominee but also has cattle on his home farm, he won a close race. In a slightly leaning Republican district, he won. He utilized DBA's endorsement. And thanks to your generosity, we gave him money as well. And in La Crosse County, an area where I'm from, my home area, Steve Doyle, a longtime Democrat, won a very, very close race. His district has a significant part of rural parts of La Crosse County and Trumbull County. And in fact, I know firsthand he used DBA's endorsements in his TV ads, his radio ads, and he won the race. And sadly, DBA lost a good friend, State Representative Lauren Oldenburg, who was from Viroqua Westby area, a dairy farmer who sold his cows a few years ago, but still very involved in the farm. He lost his race. DBA endorsed him. We worked our tail off for him. Chad and I both were helpful on the campaign. He was one of only 5 farmers in the legislature, and he lost, which is sad. You hate to lose a farm voice. Currently now, the legislature in the state assembly is 54-45, a net loss of 10 seats. So what do these results mean? Again, Wisconsin was the swingiest of swing states. What do I mean by that? Of all the 7 swing states in the country, Wisconsin by far was the closest. Donald Trump won the seat of the state by 0.9%. To trigger a recount, someone has to lose a race by 1% or more. Obviously, Kamala Harris did not, so there's no recount in Wisconsin. Trump ran better than he did in 2020 nearly everywhere in the state, but especially in rural Wisconsin. People paid attention to this race. Obviously, you saw the TV ads, the mail, and we're sick of them in the end, like Chad and I were. But 73% of Wisconsinites voted. That is very, very close to the state record. State record was in 2004. However, 3.4 million Wisconsinites voted, and that is a state record. And one interesting part of history, as a former social studies teacher that I am, Wisconsin, for the first time since 1968, voted for one party for president and another party for U.S. Senate. Richard Nixon in 1968 and Gaylord Nelson, a Democrat, in 68. There's no doubt that the rural and urban divide continues. Trump dominated in rural parts of the state, especially in northern Wisconsin and central Wisconsin. Harris ran very strong in the urban areas of Madison and its growing suburbs, Milwaukee and Milwaukee County, and Eau Claire, La Crosse, and Appleton. However, her margins were just slightly less than Biden's in 2020. Our statewide U.S. Senate race was very close. And as Mike Torrey mentioned in his comments, Tammy Baldwin won a 3rd term. One of the states where Wisconsin voted for Republican for President Trump and Democrat U.S. Senate. Baldwin won, and Eric Hubdy has yet to concede the race. He's lost by 0.95%. So he could ask for a recount, but he'd have to pay for it from his campaign. He has until next Tuesday to make that decision. One more interesting history note. Democrats have controlled one U.S. Senate seat in Wisconsin since 1957, when Gaylord Nelson took the seat of then Joe McCarthy. All the incumbents were elected in Wisconsin. 3rd district, a close race, Derek Van Orden won, as well as a new member, Tony Weed of Green Bay. And legislative races that we discussed were very competitive due to redistricting. There's the map. Let it speak for itself. You can see the urban and rural divide in Wisconsin. The more red it is, the more Trump. The more blue it is, the more Harris. Harris's numbers in Madison, Dane County are blue, no doubt, but not dark, dark blue. Trump ran about 24% in Dane County, close to 25%, which is actually very good for a Republican down here. But there you see the urban and rural divide. And that means a lot as Chad and I go across the street, not only the partisan differences, but the urban-rural geographic differences matters as well. I'd like to now Go ahead, Chad. I'm going to turn it over to Chad. He is our government affairs director, as you know, and he's in charge of what we do across the street. Chad?
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate the update. And it was quite an exciting night on Tuesday. And now we're past election day. Commercials have slowed down and stopped. The mail is getting back to just bills. And we're all feeling a little bit better. But what's next after the election? Legislators are back in Madison. They're holding legislative leadership elections now, determining who's going to lead the different caucuses. As we talked about and Sean mentioned, we're going to maintain split government here. Democratic Governor Tony Evers and a GOP-led legislature in both the Assembly and Senate, but with smaller majorities in each. Assembly just held their legislative elections or leadership elections yesterday, and the Senate held theirs last week. Robin Vos will continue as the GOP speaker, and Devin LeMahieu will continue as a Senate majority leader. One change in the Senate GOP leadership, and that has Chris Kappinga, state senator from South Central Wisconsin, stepping aside, no longer running for president of the Senate. Mary Felskowski, senator from North Central Wisconsin, was elected to be the new president of the Senate. Democrats are preparing, or I think they've held all of their elections too.
In the Senate, they will Assembly next week.
The Assembly Democrats will hold their leadership elections for the minority next week, and the Senate Democrats held theirs yesterday as well. Diane Hesselbein will continue to lead the Senate in the minority. What we're looking at coming into a new legislative session that'll run from January 2025 until the end of 2027. We have a $90 billion biennial budget, a 2-year state budget that begins on July 1st. Currently, the State Fiscal Bureau reports that we have a $4 billion surplus, with Evers and Democrats looking to bolster UW funding, provide some child care tax credits, improve child care in rural parts of Wisconsin, and focusing on targeted tax relief, while the Republicans are starting to indicate that they're looking for permanent tax relief and really opposed, as they have been in the past, to increased UW funding. And what DBA is looking at coming into the next legislative session is we develop our priorities in consultation with members and then working with our various coalition groups, focusing heavily again on refunding, reauthorizing programs that have been very successful in the conservation and sustainability modes, and that would be cover crop insurance premium rebates, private well compensation program improvements to make that program available to more private well owners around the state, nitrogen optimization pilot program. We're looking to continue that very successful program with some modifications, hoping to expand the individual grants from 40 to 60,000 and look at some different alternatives to allow more groups to participate in those. And then ramping up the state funding for county conservation staffing. Producer-led watershed grants has been a very successful program, popular within the state legislature. We want to continue to bolster state support for those programs, putting farmers in touch with farmers, sharing best practices, and implementing conservation practices. Again, we are going to make a high priority the agriculture road improvement program. Last session, we received historic funding for agriculture roads in the form of $150 million. The state is currently going through the second round of that funding, and we are going to work together as an ag coalition again to try to get that program reenacted and doing really great work out there. I think by next spring, you're going to start seeing projects completed and really significant improvement in our infrastructure for agriculture. And then we're also looking at some integrity issues for the dairy community. Raw milk legislation, we expect to be back again this session. Elijah Behnke, who introduced that last session, won re-election. However, Dewey Strobel, one of the state Senate Republican losses, he championed the issue in the state Senate. He lost election. We do think that this is an issue that is gaining some traction, so we're going to be watching this very closely. And other investments in research capacity in the state of Wisconsin, focusing on the UW Dairy Innovation Hub. 3 UW campuses participate in that program. That's River Falls, Platteville, and UW-Madison. So just want to highlight the good work they're doing there. Keep up the support for that. And again, along the other lines, looking at transportation, integrity of the dairy community, and then our conservation measures as
And
well.
Chad, before you get into Dairy Day, one of the things that we're going to be watching as well, and Chad and I will have hopefully a say in this as we talk to lawmakers, who will be the next chair of the Senate Agriculture Committee, with Joan Ballweg being defeated. Ballweg was an opponent of raw milk as well. So that is some little bit of parlor game that's yet to be determined within the Capitol. But we have some strong people that really want to be Senate Ag Committee chair, who we believe are good on a lot of nearly all of our issues. But we'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, we're really sad to see Joan Ballweg leave. She was a DBA champion in the past and just been very supportive of our issues. There are folks that are interested in assuming that chairmanship. Currently, the vice chair is Senator Tomczyk, Corey Tomczyk from the Wausau area. However, he chairs the state's transportation committee, or the Senate's transportation committee. So we're not sure if he's going to make the move to chair. Senator Teston's another name that's been bantered around. He's from the Stevens Point area. A lot of potato vegetable growers in his district, but also very, very friendly to dairy. He led the charge for farmland preservation program updates in the last session. Again, he's received our award and our endorsement in the past. So a lot of really great opportunities there within the Senate Agriculture Committee, and even in the Assembly Ag Committee as new members come on board. I've already heard interest from some brand new members interested in serving on the Ag Committee. And then finally, I just want to highlight an opportunity to come and participate in your state government and help spread DBA's priorities, share those priorities, talk about your experiences on the farm and why these priorities make a difference in your business. DBA's Dairy Day at the Capitol, working out some dates as we get some information from the legislature on how their session is going to run, but look for that to come in early spring and look for those announcements. And I really hope you'll sign up and join us in Madison as we lobby our lawmakers, meet with lawmakers, and have a really great program, a day of really great programming for you to engage with your state policymakers. And with that, Sammy, if you're listening, I'd like to open it up to questions. And then, yes, any questions, you can always reach us, but here's our contact information. Really look forward to hearing from you and working with you over the next 2-year legislative session. And we can open it up for questions now. There we go. And we're back.
Ask us away. Ask away.
Great. Any questions out there? Anything in the chat box?
Well, one of the things, Chad, maybe to stir some questions here is we talked about how there's 132 lawmakers in the state capitol. About 25, 30 years ago, of that 132, more than 30 of them were directly from the farm. As farm sizes have changed, as families have, moved off the farm, still produce the same amount of milk, but only 4 members now, Chad, heading into the new legislature are farmers. So that puts the onus on us to communicate how the importance of this $105 billion agriculture economy, with nearly half of that being dairy.
Yep.
So that puts a little bit more work onto that. So if you add that to the layer of not just the partisan differences, which are much closer now in the state legislature, you add that to the geographic divide, it shows how important it is that we get you as members engaged, get members on your farm. One of the things we always hear a lot about is how appreciative and how happy members of the legislature are to tour our farms. Chad had mentioned Pat Teston, who represents Central Wisconsin, but also has Jackson and Monroe County. We took him on a great farm tour in Toma here this summer. Very helpful. I know Amy Penterman has hosted many tours as well. So those things help us across the street.
Absolutely. And it really every election presents new opportunities to share dairy story, your story, with new lawmakers who are interested, who have always seen America's Dairyland on their license plate, but don't know a lot about the dairy industry, how we work and how we work as a collaborative, our relationship with processor community and affiliated businesses. So it really gives me a new opportunity every 2 years to go in and tell the DBA story, the story of agriculture and how dairy works and represents Wisconsin values. And a lot of open doors, a lot of people really excited to talk and to meet with us, and really excited to be able to get back in there and start having some great conversations.
Chad, across the street, we do not see, obviously it can be very polarizing and partisan, but a lot of stuff on agriculture, we tend to see a lot of common ground on this. And one of those was that ARIP program where we got $150 million for road funding. We're starting to see kind of the same dynamics again, right? Representative Tranel, a longtime friend of ours, was
Yeah.
reelected as the chair from Southwest Wisconsin, a dairy farmer himself. So it seems like the polarization, of course, is always going to exist because it's politics, but there's this underpinning of agriculture. It seems they work together. Wouldn't you agree?
I totally agree in that agriculture road improvement program was really a once in a generational opportunity to get one-time money, $150 million at a 90% state funded program to improve the roads, not just repair those roads, but improve those roads. Really great participation across the state. As the applications came in, I was on the committee that reviewed those and assigned dollar values to different applications. Some really tremendous need out in those communities. One of the primary requirements is that a town or county that receives state funding can no longer post roads, and that was really the critical part of this. Improving those roads so they can handle today's modern agriculture equipment and provide the service that is meant to, the roads are meant to be used for. So again, partnering with not just producers, but processors and affiliated businesses using those roads. Again, tremendous support in the legislature. We hope we get that same kind of level of support this go round. But yes, as Sean mentioned, the agriculture dairy industries generally brings both parties together and they coalesce around those issues, understanding the $64 billion impact dairy plays on our state's economy.
But Chad, the other thing we'll add before we wrap it up here is state has got a $4 billion surplus. I go back to the days of the 2000s when we were coming off of September 11th, when I worked in Governor Doyle's office, and the economy has just started to chug along. Then the recession hit in 08. That's when you came in the Capitol and the Republicans took over the Capitol. We didn't have a lot of money then. So it was kind of easy to say no to people because we didn't have a lot of money. Now with a $4 billion surplus, Chad, many people have said it's harder to govern with a surplus than it is with a deficit. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we see it already just with the beginning of the salvos from the Democrats talking about UW funding and targeted tax cuts, and Republicans talking about, states collecting too much money. We got to send that money back. We already see the dividing line where they're lining up, where they want to prioritize those dollars, paying down some debt, and then again reinvesting in either the UW or sending money back in the form of tax cuts. Yeah, $4 billion is a lot of money. The state's rainy day fund is also full. So things look good going into 25. And we'll see how this budget cycle works. Again, with those shrinking majorities, should play a role in how the negotiations go between the Democrat administration and Republican controlled legislature.
Well, Chad, before I send it over to you to wrap it up here, as you can see over our shoulder, we got the Capitol, we got our cow as our inspiration. So dairy is front and center here in the Capitol. A lot has happened over the past few months with the election. Voters have spoken, voters have voted. Now it's time for people to go back and enjoy the holidays and let the new session begin in January. We're always looking for people to ride shotgun with me and Chad across the street. So if you're interested in coming down, it never hurts to have real people come down, talk about life on the farm, help us kick the tires across the street, because you have the experience, you have the skin in the game, and we are your voice in the state capitol. So Chad, you want to wrap it up?
Yep, nope, that was very well said, Sean. Thank you. And thank you all for being here today. You all know how to get a hold of me. If you have questions, want to talk about specific races, maybe in your area, don't hesitate to give me a call, but look for my call as we ramp up some priorities and plan on bringing members down to Madison to really promote DBA and the priorities we're fighting for.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody, very much. Have a great rest of your day.